Hello, it's me. So, there are any number of videos that I could take a clip from and react to today. However, there's an overarching story which seems to be quietly everywhere, and that is Labour's desperation. You can see here in front of me Black Belt Barrister, a fine channel. Desperate and dangerous. Yep. Double Down News, Starmer exposed, as I reported yesterday. And the voters reacting to the speech, many people expressing dissatisfaction, doubt. But what I'd like to focus on is the fact that Labour are now increasingly over the last week or so using more and more desperate language. Using terms like racist, for instance. David Lammy making some kind of Nazi comment in relation to an opponent or an opponent's party, I believe. When trying to sell their frankly doomed idea of a Brit card, a British ID card, telling people they have to choose between decency or division. Decency or division. If you choose the Brit card, you're a decent person. If you don't, then you're a divisive person. Over an ID card. Now, if that doesn't sound like desperation, what does? The usual soft touch language of political bureaucracy has gone out the window, as so often happens in these situations when a party understands that basically the ground that it's built on is currently on fire and they have to put it out for as long as they can. But in this instance, I think there's an added element, another ingredient, and that is, quite frankly, they're putting the fire out not because they're losing power, but they still have things to implement. And that's a controversial view because it intimates that there's something else going on, something relatively unseen. But the more we find out about Labour, the more we understand fully that they are not their own party. Other organisations, individuals and entities have basically pilfered the name, installed their puppets, and are doing what they do at the cost of the citizens of this great country. That pregnant pause is intentional, by the way. I want it to sink in. I think, and this is just a suspicion, that we're watching something quite historical. Over the last few years, the Tories took us away from the Human Rights Convention, watered it down, diluted stuff. And if you didn't know any better, you'd say it was in preparation for now. But I hear you say, this is Labour, not the Tories. In which case I draw your attention to Andrew Bridgen, former Conservative MP, who rightly pointed out that in today's political climate, Labour, liberal left Labour, and the Conservative Party as we know it, led by Kemi Badenoch, I believe, still, unless that's changed in the last 24 hours, are two cheeks of the same arse. there is no opposition. There will be no change. Hence, Starmer hanging on for grim, dear life is merely a function. He knows he's done. Who do they install? Andy Burnham? Again, do we know what Andy Burnham's convictions are, political and personal? Is he part of the Tony Blair sideshow? If so, it'll be more of the same. Nothing will change. They will do everything they can to continue. Whoever replaces Starmer, for sure, will do everything they can to continue. They will use more palatable language. They will even, on the face of it, build bridges. They will tell the British public what the British public wants to hear, all the while scheming. Political machinations in the background will continue because that's what these organizations do. It's my frankly unfounded opinion, but my opinion nonetheless, and as I've said previously, the internet is a place where opinions live, and this is mine, for what it's worth. The Labour Party aren't a real political party in the sense that we understand political parties governing for their constituents, trying to make things better from their respective MPs' bases and improving the country for all of us. That politics went out the window in the late 70s. And we've since been subject to, I think, captured politicians, captured prime ministers. And this is the inevitable upshot of it all, over 40 years later. This is just my impression. Do I know for sure any of this? No. It will take people with a lot more access than me to find out the truth. But I fully expect in the next few years to be able to look into this lens and say, I told you so. But I'm not alone. There are many other people, many other people, much more qualified than I, who will also be looking into the lens going, yep, told you so. I understand that I am an outlier, in as much as I think a lot of this is kind of statecraft, intelligence. And not necessarily just statecraft and state intelligence. I also think there's corporate intelligence, which nowadays amounts, in many cases, to the same thing. So many independent corporate bodies, think tanks, etc., are linked to the state, funded in one way or another by a state asset or proxy. The politics being practiced in the UK is happening 10 levels above what we see in Parliament. And again, that's just my view. And I will say it again. I don't have any evidence for this. But if you look around and you look closely and you pay attention, and you certainly start to look at the various interests that these people who have positions of power in the UK share, then all of a sudden something starts to reveal itself. And that something is very much a club, a web, and we're not in it. We the citizenry stopped being the reason. We are no longer the boss, we are the product. We're not in charge, we're stock. we are to be sorted, categorized, labeled, pushed about at the convenience of our political masters. And in the unlikely event there's change, what would it really take? Who changes? Who is capable of change? I've often said the only two people I think that are capable of bringing real change to this country are Jeremy Corbyn and Andrew Bridgen. But they've got more chance of gaining a position of power than I've got if... I was going to say something rather inappropriate there. They've got no chance. The establishment will not allow it. And if Andrew Bridgen has any brains at all, he will join with Jeremy Corbyn. But I think he's too enamoured with Rupert Lowe, who I think is, from what I know, the little I know of him, is a principled man, another principled man, trying to do the right thing. Reform have all but shot their boat and are effectively, in my opinion, a politically dead man walking. If Farage does become Prime Minister in that unlikely event, can we expect any change from Farage? I think he'll tinker around the edges, but ultimately, you can say what you want about Farage, but I think in some ways he knows how the world works, and he knows if he was to do too much too soon, if he were to bring the change that he actually promises now, whilst not in power, that might earn him an unalived status. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do like and subscribe if you'd like to. And until next time, this is me signing off. Do look after yourselves.